y'all. I'm Allie, and like they said, I'm a patient at Mack's Living, and I have been for 5 years across 3 different clinics. And today I get to tell my testimony. And I think the most beautiful thing about a testimony is that this is not about me. This is about a God who heals, who provides, and sustains, and meets us where we're at. So, for context, I'm 27 right now, but when I was 18, I went from very healthy to very sick overnight. And I went to the doctor, and they said, oh, you probably have the flu. It'll be fine. It'll wear off. And then weeks went by, and then months went by, and it didn't wear off, and so they started doing more testing. And a colonoscopy ended up diagnosing me with severe ulcerative colitis. And they deemed it sudden onset, so one day I really was healthy, and the next I really was sick. On diagnosis day, my doctor handed me a pack of steroids, and he said, take these for 10 days. You'll be okay. We'll get the inflammation down, and then we'll get you on some medication that you'll probably have to take the rest of your life, but don't worry, because the inflammation will be gone. So on day 7 of taking the steroids, I was not better. I was in fact sicker. And my grandma, who was an ICU nurse at the time, she came over and she took one look at me and she said, something is very wrong. This is not okay. We have to take her to the emergency room. So they did, and I was immediately admitted, and this started a vicious cycle of one hospital stay after the next. Medication, failed medication after failed medication, 26 blood transfusions, over 100 iron infusions, fecal transplants, rectal surgeries. For years, 4 years, I spent more time in the hospital than I did at home. And 8 doctors later, at the age of 21, I was bedridden, wheelchair-bound. I lost my hair, and I could not go a day without pain. I basically was not living. My doctor came in, and he said, hey, we have 2 options. You can have surgery to remove your entire colon, or I can admit you to the Mayo Clinic, but there's nothing more. If you don't want to have surgery, there's nothing more that I can do for you. And at that point, I had prayed about surgery, and I really just didn't feel peace about it. And I know God by his peace, and I will choose to walk where peace goes. And so I asked to be admitted to the Mayo Clinic. The next day, I was in the Mayo Clinic, and for weeks, they did test after test. I swear they tested probably every organ in my body, each test coming back either perfectly fine or incredibly inconclusive. They didn't know why I was so sick, and they didn't know why my body wasn't responding to medication. So that doctor came in, and he said, all right, we have 1 medication left to try, and if this doesn't work, then we're going to have to do surgery to remove your entire colon. I said, okay, let's try the medication. And then I just prayed. And I was like, Lord, I believe that you are who you say that you are my healer and my provider and my sustainer. And that, Lord, if it is your will, I would love to keep my colon. I pray that this is the miracle, that this medication takes away the pain, the inflammation, and I'm able to live again. But Lord, if healing comes through surgery, you're going to have to give me peace about it. And if it doesn't, then you're going to have to give me courage to walk where peace goes. So they brought the medication in, and they started administering it through IV. And within 30 seconds, I was not able to breathe, and I swelled up, and I went into full anaphylactic shock. And right when the reaction started, my mom sent a text that I would find out after the fact. Obviously, she's not telling me this while I'm reacting, but she sent a text to our family group chat, and she said, please pray, Allie's reacting. My aunt and uncle happened to receive that text when they were driving past the hospital, and they, without hesitation, they came in and they ran to my room, and my aunt went to my mom to comfort her, and my uncle came over and started praying for me. And mind you, I don't know about the text, and so I have no context as to why I'm hearing my uncle's voice, and my eyes are swollen shut, so I can't see him, but because I know my uncle, I know his voice. I didn't have to see his face to know that it was him. And in the same way, in that moment, in a room full of chaos, I was at peace. And if I recognize my God by his peace, then I know that God was with me in that moment. And in that moment, I knew before I made any decision about surgery or anything else, I needed to go home, and I needed to pray. I needed to be out of the hospital. I needed to be in my own space. At that point, I'd been in the hospital for 7 weeks straight and had not stepped foot outside in fresh air. And after about 11 of the longest minutes of my life, the reaction stopped. And the room was calm. And then my doctor the next day came in, and he said, "Good news. We have surgery scheduled for next week." And I looked at him, and I said, "Actually, I want to go home, and I need to pray about what to do next because I don't have peace about surgery yet." And he came, and he sat down on the side of my bed, and he said, "Sweetie, you know that if I send you home, you're going to die, right?" And I just looked at him, and I said, "Respectfully, my God is bigger than that. And I refuse to make this decision out of fear. So I need to go home." And he said, "Okay." And then he made me sign this cute little waiver that said he wasn't liable for my death. And then I went home. And then I started praying. I was like, "God, what comes next? What, do I do surgery? Do I not?" And I felt like I was supposed to write down my story. And so I wrote down my entire story, and I emailed it to every famous doctor I could think of. And I just prayed that someone would reply. I just needed someone to either tell me that there was another option or tell me I was crazy, but I needed someone to reply. And about a week later, one doctor replied. And all he said was, "Have you seen a chiropractor?" I was furious. I was like, "You're going to read my entire story and tell me to see a chiropractor?" But then I was like, "No, I haven't." So I humbled myself, and I emailed him back, and I said, "Who do you recommend?" And he goes, "It looks like there's a Max Living Clinic opening up in Chandler, Arizona very soon. Email them the same thing you sent me and see what they say." So I did. And I got a call from Dr. Alana Fierce, and she said, "Hi, I just need to hear your voice. Are you real? Is this really your story?" And I said, "Yeah, shoot me straight. Can you help me? Because frankly, I don't have the time or the money to waste. So if you can help me, great, but if not, please don't waste my time." And she said, "We want to try. Can you come into the clinic on Monday? Dr. Mack and I want to talk to you." And so I did, and they sat with me, and they prayed with me, and they heard me, and they spoke life, and they were honest with me, and they said, "We don't know how your body's going to respond, but what we do know is that God has given your body the ability to heal, but we have to tell it that. Will you give us 4 months?" And I said, "Okay, I'll give you 4 months." So for the next 4 months, we completely changed my entire life. And at the 4-month mark, it was an intense 4 months. At the 4-month mark, I was in no pain. I could walk without my wheelchair. My hair started coming back. I was able to start really kind of, toying with the idea of life again. And then at the 5-month mark, I got a part-time job. And at the 6-month mark, I was able to start praying about the future and what that would look like and what God was really calling me to do next. Now that I could actually live a little, where was I going to live? And Tennessee was placed on my heart. And I was like, "God, are you asking me to move to Tennessee? Because that's kind of crazy. I don't know anyone out there. I've never been there. And I'm kind of still too sick. That just doesn't really make sense, right?" And he just so kindly said, "Allie, you're not too sick to do what I'm calling you to do. Do you trust me?" And I said, "Yes." So I went into Mike and Alana, and I said, "Hey, I really feel like God is calling me to move to Tennessee," fully expecting them to be like, "Absolutely not. Sit down, stay put." But they didn't. They looked at me, and they said, "Okay, if that's what you feel God calling you to do, then we'll get you as healthy as we can so that you can do that." And they did. And I moved to Knoxville, Tennessee, and they connected me with the Blooms, and the Blooms took over my care, and they spoke life over my situation. And then after 4 months living in Knoxville, my job let me know that they'd be moving me to Nashville the next month. which again, I was like, whoa, God, are we sure we're gonna do this again? But we did. And I went into Dr. Alicia and I said, okay, I'm moving to Nashville and I'm a little bit nervous. Do you know a chiropractor? And she said, sweetie, you have nothing to worry about. I'll connect you to the majors. So she did, and the majors took over my care and they spoke life. And I was there for about 1.5 years, and then I moved back to Phoenix, and now I'm back with Mike and Alana, and being back with them is amazing because my life looks so different now than what it did when I first met them. But because God is so kind, and because the Pierces and the Blooms and the Majors chose to walk in obedience to the call that God had on their life and speak life over my situation, I get to walk healed into the call that God has on my life, and I get to do it with my colon. So I know that today is the last day, and we're all going back home today, and you have patients back home waiting for you, or patients that need you to find them. I want to leave you with this, that this right here, you walking in obedience to the call that God has on your life, has the ability to change everything for someone like me. Thank you.